Hello and happy Wednesday. So it's my last video live with you guys for the week. And after today, then I'll be in Fairmont for Stamp Camp tomorrow. I've got just a couple spots left open. So if you're interested in that, please contact me directly so that you don't assume that you're going to be the extra 2 spots as well as 6 others. So sometimes that might happen. And yeah, just let me know and I would gladly add you to the list if there's still room. So that's tomorrow in Fairmont from 2:30 until 7:30. So it's a come and go event and I'm there to help you work through your projects just like this one. So let me show you today a fun fold here. That is an easel fold like that. And also I'm going to be using an impressions mat. So kind of a fun project because of the fun fold and also the new technique to help you with the impressions mat and how that is layered with the Big Shot and everything. So it may be my last live of the week, but I'm going to make sure that there's a lot of content in it for you. So let me get my camera turned around here. And yeah, hump day, I shouldn't be working this hard, right? No, I'm just kidding. This is not work. It's too much fun, right? I love doing it. And actually, when I have a big group, Fairmont's usually one of my largest classes. And usually I don't even have time to do any videos the week of because I'm so busy creating and cutting and prepping and making sure everything's ready to go. So this is my 3rd one this week, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. So once again, let me get the camera kind of close here. It says, have a fabulous day. It is the new Peaceful Pine on Peaceful Pine. I don't know if the camera picks it up super great, but in person it does. I was a little worried about that when I stamped it on there, but I was pleased with how well it shows up in person. And then sneaking in some little embellishments through cardstock with the dies from the scallop blooms. There we go. And here you can see the easel fold and that, and I'll go into more depth and detail about that as well too. So where this is coming from is, the catalog, the current catalog here. And then if you flip to page 37, there's no like designer series paper or anything that coordinates with this. It is just the bundle. So it's kind of shown a little differently there. And then it's also shown like here, if you look at the bundle, you know what stamps and dies go together. And then like the stamp set, if you want to see that a little bit better or bigger, that's on page 50. And then also the dies then are on page 58. So it shows you that. I like that it's shown multiple times. And then also you can see that the bundle is the 10% savings on that. And then they've got a great sample here up in the corner with using the gold foil on there as well. So that's kind of fun. So I'm gonna, and then let's see if I can remember what page it was on. Here we go. I also want to show you, before I forget, on the page before here, the Opulent Oasis bundle, that also has a die that shows how striking that impressions mat is. So you can see the impressions plate. I call it the mat because you'll see when I show you why I feel like I should call it a mat instead of a plate. And you can kind of see it doing its work there as well, and the difference that it makes with the certain stamps, or not stamps, but dies that are meant to have that kind of extra pop for excitement. So let me put my catalog away so I get that off my space, since I'm going to be doing some more than normal. So Phrases and Frames, this is a great stamp set. Even as a standalone, I love and have been using a lot the sentiments for both the front of the card, the inside of the card, and then here we have the dies. Obviously not shown as the size that it is, because this die here is actually this die here and it is quite large. So there's the inside to that, or excuse me, the inside to that, the inside to that, and then this goes together as well. So we've got that. And then the paper that I'm using here, that Peaceful Pine, comes also from the Scallop Blooms Sweet Collection. So this is Bloom Boutique 12 by 12, and this is the paper that I've been using and showing you. I've already shown it to you, so I'm not going to get it out piece by piece like I sometimes do. But if you remember from a previous video, it has that sparkling gold foil on almost every single sheet on one side or the other. So you've got that. And then you can see where I've got my little bits and pieces. So you might go, oh yeah, that's right, we've used that in a class or such. So that is where that comes from. And I like to show you that as well. And so to start with our fun fold here, let me get out my Peaceful Pine card base. And so if you're thinking, okay, this looks like the normal size of a regular card base, it is. And so if you were to make a card and just open it like that, you would see this is the exact size that is. Hi, Elizabeth. Yeah, isn't the paper so pretty? So then all I did was took and scored that right in the middle here of that 4 1/4. So that folds back exactly in half. And so then that's where I have my bone folder here to give that a nice score as well. Actually, I want it to go this way. Do as I say, not as I do, or something like that. Okay, so this is going to be that easel fold like so. Now I want to kind of pat it down so it goes down. And I'm going to just set this aside because what I want to do is have all of the working bits and parts be on this piece of paper here, or cardstock that's going to go on here. And it'll just be just like an 1/8 inch less in the width of that card base. So the card base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so an 1/8 inch less than that on the sides, instead of the usual 1/4 inch, because that white frame is so large. I wanted to make sure that it would have a lot of that space to be left to put that frame on. So I've got that. And then what I'm going to do then is show you this, because it is very different than what people have seen. It's a newer product, so then I like to kind of go in depth with you. So when I was going to cut my basic white cardstock with this, I thought, oh my goodness, this isn't just like a card front. It's larger than this even, and this is smaller than the card. I'm like, how is this going to fit in an envelope? But don't ask me how, but it does. It's just kind of crazy. So I cut my basic white cardstock. You can see it's a pretty tight fit, but I cut it 5.75 by 4 1/4 to have this be what it is. And then for my layering, when you get in your impressions mat, I'm going to call it impressions plate, then this layering comes with it, and so that's super helpful as well. So when I have my cut and emboss machine, let me get that out. So then I'm going to just walk you through it as I do it. So I'm going to cut it first. So I want my big chunky plate number 1 as shown, and then number 2 is this one. That next, kind of call it my shim plate number 2, and then 3 is going to be both of the cutting mats. So let me pull those. I've got 1. And then I've got 2, so those are my cutting mats, which is number 3. And then what I'm going to do is just put this in between there like so. So one run through is the cutting, the next run through is the what makes it kind of pop. And I wanted to show you that too live, not just like, hey, this is what this looks like, this is what that looks like. So that's going to go through like so. And then what I've got is garbage. And this usually releases super easy too. So we've got that die cut, and you can kind of see, if the camera picks that up, the little cuts in there are just like little impressions, kind of an embossed look, but not super like, it's more of a texture look than a texture feel. And then this is important because the inside of this that pops out, I'm also going to use in today's card as well. All right, so then I go back to my sheet here. Now I'm going to use that same die to emboss with the mat. So what I want to do next is line this up. So I've got my plate number 1, the chunky one, and then number 2 is the shim plate, like I like to call it, and then the impressions, and then number 4. So this is where I want to show you the impressions and why I kind of call it a mat. You can see it's very flexible and bendable. It kind of reminds me of our silicone mats. Don't think that that can be a replacement. It's very different in thickness and the material of it and such. So that's why I want to let you know that. So what I'm going to do next then is just take and line up this again in my die. So it's like that. And sometimes it wants to pop out up because I just, showed you that. So sometimes I will like roll it on there. So I know by looking, because I've got a good angle on here, I know it's going to be fine. So then I just feed that through. And if you want to spritz it with water to make your cardstock fibers a little bit more pliable, you can do that as well. I didn't with this. Trying to think, when I made this one so long ago at the Stampin' Up! Event in Long Beach, California. I'm almost thinking that we maybe did do a little bit of spritz to give this one more pop from that other bundle I just talked about. But now you can see the difference here of it popped up, and here we go. Just kind of want to show you a before and after because I've got that here. So this is the before. And like I said, maybe you can kind of see those little etchings in there. And now with the impressions mat, you can see it's really popped up. And so it does give you an ooh-ah effect with that. So it's kind of fun to show, isn't it? Like, I think to have it shown to you in person is very, very helpful. So what I'm going to do now is start building, and I feel like this, because it's going to be a tight fit, and I want it to be perfect, because if I get it off, it's not going to fit in an envelope if it's hanging too far over the side of my project. So I tell people start with that first, and then I'm also going to use these. I have the packaging here so you can see it. The foam adhesive sheets, they come in a long strip of that. And these are so nice to use because you can just take and lay these down. These, I think the original intent of these, which is an awesome idea, is for shaker cards, when you want to have shaker cards and not have the content accidentally slip out. Then these hold everything in that way. I actually think I just need to give this a little bit more of a snip there. And like, this doesn't have to be like perfect to the edge at all by any means. But sometimes it's just easy to lay it all out. And I'm going to grab, another one here. And also, if you're doing these with the dimensionals, because you're like, well, gosh, I really want to make this card, I have everything, I forgot to get the strips, it also works to use these edges. These are going to be too thick there with the popped up a little bit more, but that edge does work for you. I like to let you guys know that. And then let me just continue to put this down. I kind of had the top come off with it this time. I've never had that happen, right? And then I'm just going to trim that, and then trim this down too. So then we've got that all done, and now that, I'm going to move this out of the way, is ready to go on this working piece, like I want to call that, because that's basically what it is. And it does a great job at that. And so what I want to do is just kind of eye this before I make anything be pressed down. And now we've got that. So that makes our nice little frame there. And then I'm going to keep building with this. So remember how this not only cut the frame, but it cut out that piece of the inside there. So I'm just going to use that. And then I've also cut from the Pretty Paper 2.75 by 4 1/4 of the Pretty Blooms Bloom Boutique 12 by 12 specialty paper there. Get that put off to the side. So I'm just going to tape those two together. And the reason why you might go, well, why won't you start with that middle and just work out, is once again, like if this is sitting a little bit, even the slightest bit crooked or down or up too far, then your frame is going to want to be placed to make it look like you're framing it as intended, but then it could be off. And like I said, you don't want it to not fit in your envelope. So then I just kind of put that in there and wriggle it around a little bit. And even having like your take your pick tool to kind of be able to maneuver it. Oops, now I maneuvered it too much. Whoops. Okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. I think I just, like anything, try doing this live on a video and have it turn out perfect is always like the challenge. There we go. And if it's not perfect, that's fine too. Like, I think that's good. So that sits in there and it kind of sits in a well like so. So we've got that. And then what I want to do, I think, is start working on our easel. And like, it doesn't matter if these steps go in this order either, like that's totally fine. So I'm going to build that base here by just putting down a piece of basic white, 4 by 5 1/4 piece basic white onto here. And then I'm going to put some more adhesive just on this half where it's scored. I'm going to give that like 3 nice strips there. And then I'm just going to kind of center that, and it's going to be a pretty tight fit there because it's just 1/8 of an inch less than the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So now we have made that easel. So having that score in there right away is important so that you don't accidentally get some adhesive on there and end up sticking that down. And I try and put my adhesive right on this and not on this so I don't accidentally put it around the edges like we are so used to when we make our normal regular cards. All right, so now let's do some stamping. I'm going to pull out the Peaceful Pine ink pad, new ink color, so it's got that nice magnetic cover to that. And then I'm going to do May Your Day Be Filled with Love and Happiness. So I'm just going to ink that up. And like I said, Phrases and Frames is the stamp set for that. Just going to get that on there like so. And then I also cut out from the Scalloped Blooms dies that nice little scallop rectangle there. And then I'm going to stamp out Have a Fabulous Day. And like I said, even though this is Peaceful Pine on Peaceful Pine, it does really stand out because it's kind of like those are lighter shades of that color. So that's always nice. And then I'm just going to take and snip this with my scissor like so. And this white strip here is 3/4 inch. So I like to just sometimes just slice a 3/4 inch piece of cardstock and then work with that. And then what I'm going to do is just take some adhesive here and grab a 1 inch strip of Peaceful Pine, and just kind of by eyeing it, you can definitely measure that out, cut it ahead of time. But I like to just like do that eye of about 1/4 inch like so, and then I can cut that or get out my trimmer if you want to be more exact. I have decent enough luck doing that, because not always does it turn out perfect. All right, so now what I want to do is take this, and I could use edges from this or just use the whole dimensional if I wanted to. So I'm just going to grab this and go across. This I want popped up, and for an easel card, you definitely want whatever, whether it be a sentiment or a cute little image, you want that popped up with a dimensional so that you have something for this to rest upon. So I'm just going to go like that. And so now we have kind of the bumper for the card. So it's like that, and I have it up far enough so that it's not double bumped with that and then that frame. And so then when you open it, it just is like so. So I've got there. Hello, Renee. Thanks for joining in. And now this I'm also going to pop up with dimensionals. And this was kind of hard too, because look at how soft and pretty that hydrangea hue is for that background. Just kind of that light color and for the background, and those pretty purple flowers are kind of like a periwinkle color, so it's really nice. So I'm just going to put this down in the corner there, and then I've pre-cut ahead of time from the Scalloped Blooms dies, these little guys, and I know you've seen them before in action. And for this, I'm just going to put some adhesive kind of on half of it, and then that's going to sit here, and I'm going to just kind of lightly put it there because I'm going to also tuck in some of these leaves here with glue dots, because the leaves, they're smaller, they could easily get bumped. I don't want to trust that adhesive's gonna stick, but I know I can always trust my mini glue dots here. So I'm just gonna put those on either side. Whoops, I have to make sure I put it under there with the side that has the mini glue dot there. And so we've got that, and that flower's looking pretty plain, and I want to show you how this can pop just with a couple additions here. So I'm going to start with the shimmering dots, and these come in all these nice, I call them my summer colors, and I was going to use it on a different project one day, and it's funny how in the packaging you don't notice it, or if you're working with something that it just naturally blends with, but there are some blue flecks, almost like the Azure Afternoon or something that's in there. And so I don't know if the camera picks that up, or you might even think it's just a reflection, but it's within the embellishment. So you kind of want to make sure that that greenish blue is something that's going to look nice on your project, not that you're putting it with something that's going to clash with it. So that's important to know. And so I'm just going to put that in the center, so all of a sudden now that flower comes alive. And now Stampin' Up! Has these awesome gel pens, and they both have the same tip on them, 1.0. It comes as a 2-pack, and these are awesome. Long ago, Stampin' Up! Had gel pens, and I love them. And sometimes gel pens are good, and sometimes they're okay, sometimes they're great. These are awesome. So they just come out very easy to work with, and I just love how smooth they are to put on, and you don't have to go back and forth to get them to start working. So I love the gel pens. Actually, I'm going to just kind of smooth that one out. Not the gel pen's fault. I'm not a good freehand artist that way, but I'm like, okay, I can draw a couple lines. So you can see how it just kind of just sat there before, and adding that really helped a lot. So that's kind of my embellishment for the card. It's kind of got a lot of busyness, a lot of stuff going on. So I don't want to add any more embellishments that wouldn't probably show up, or just, you know, that whole less is more type thing. And then for the inside, that's already done with that. And then I wanted to save a little bit of space so that you could write in there as well. So hopefully you enjoyed today's fun fold easel card, and then also the fun demo with the impressions mat, because I know, whoops, hold on. There we go. I know a lot of people have been asking about that, and it was important to me to be able to show you that, and kind of a little before and after, so you can see, is there really a difference? Do I really need it? How is it used, and how is it layered? So hopefully that helps, and I'll be back next week with some more inspiration for you guys. Take care.